Alright. So in this video I want to talk about the untold advice that I wish I had before taking my first psychedelic experience, which happened to be shrooms. So of course all psychedelics are quite different and they have different elevated aspects about them. And shrooms, so it seems, so what I've been told, researching more and experiencing the shrooms itself, it seems like shrooms are pretty, I don't want to say violent of a psychedelic, because obviously if you go as far to the levels of ayahuasca or ibogamine, where the physical body really has, it seems to have trouble taking it in, as, we call it purging, and we feel physical anguish of release of the literal manifestation of the mental, cognitive reverberation of it, right? The physical manifestation has to do something about it. And I've talked to people who have done LSD. It seems like LSD doesn't have that as much. And I'm sure MDMA probably doesn't have that either, as it's just a serotonin dump. But the untold advice of shrooms, man, I just want to talk about this. So I didn't know that the rise was like as disorienting as it was for me. So I had a 4-gram trip. I'm guessing anything more than 3 grams will make you feel the way that I am. But of course our body responds differently. I didn't have any urge to puke whatsoever, but I hear that a lot of people do have the urge to puke, and some people actually do. But that wasn't me. Instead, I felt like I had to go to the bathroom number 2 style, right? I had to take a sheet all the time, right? And that was a strange thing. I didn't expect that. I kind of knew there would be some sort of physical, like, what is this substance in your stomach here? Like kind of confused, maybe that type of thing. Like if you eat a bad meal, an unhealthy meal, and your stomach's like, I don't know about that. Like I thought that's what it was going to be. But for me it was much more intense and delusionalized, because I couldn't even comprehend exactly what the feelings were. So the feelings were like, you gotta go sit on the toilet, but at the same time everything was so relaxed. I was kind of confused, as if I was already pooping myself. Everything, my whole system. And it was a very beautiful relaxation, I gotta admit. Everything felt so relaxed that almost it felt like a wavy, watery feeling. And again, you associate that with diarrhea, and you're thinking, well, oh gosh, maybe I have to sit in the toilet. So I wasn't ready for that. I didn't really know. But with that, I want to talk about the rise. The rise beyond the most strange thing I've ever experienced, because your conscious state literally begins to wither away. And the process, the point at which you become conscious, or you are conscious to the point where you're not perceiving time anymore, and that's what I call unconscious, but you're still conscious. That transition is very, very disorienting, at least for me. So I'd advise you to stay in a room where you're very comfortable, and not be around people too if this is your first time, unless there's a trip sitter. Of course you want to have a trip sitter, unless the trip sitter's somewhere else. If you don't feel completely comfortable. Now here's the thing, my trip sitter I felt completely comfortable with, but with this rise, my body was so uncertain as to what was going to happen. My mind became so uncertain as to what was going to happen. So everything the trip sitter said was turning into my reality. And at one point she felt like she was going to, puke, and like she started manifesting things within myself, and I was like, geez, man, I gotta get out of here. So I had to get out of here, right? I went to my room and sat in silent darkness, and then the trip was amazing, okay? But that transition of losing sense of time, it's unlike anything I've ever experienced. And if you've experienced marijuana, a lot of times we start with marijuana and we're like, ooh, we can see that there's something more in these type of experiences. But shrooms are on a whole different level. And I'm sure ayahuasca is on a whole different level. Ibogamine is on a whole different level. Of course, they're all like different vibrational points in our system, just in different areas, maybe on the same level, just different. But man, that rise is just incredibly delusional. I could not comprehend it, and I felt insecure. My body felt insecure, unsafe. I wasn't sure what was going to happen, and everything that was once comfortable, being around that person, being outside, was not uncomfortable, or was not comfortable for me. Sorry. So really, you may have to put yourself in the ultimate womb state, where you can be in a place where anything can happen, where if there's an accident of any sort, that it can happen, whatever that accident is defined in your mind, wherever you are okay to express anything, the random noises, like grunts or like anything, right? Any type of verbalization of the experience, because being around other people, you might start to judge yourself and then take you down a trip of judgmental paradise, right? It's a paradise for the judgment because it can just keep turning, but it might be a negative experience, and then you might have to get out of that in your own way, which then is vivified, right? It's increased through the shrooms. So the rise, man, that's the biggest thing that I was like, people don't really talk about, right? People talk about the experience itself, and people say that, hey, there's going to be a rise, and there's that amplification of just, like, every type of psychedelic drug has that type of experience about it, right? DMT is something more, a lot of people describe ringing in their ears and just amplifies, and then you just, boop, and you're into some other thing, right? Short-term explanation. But again, that rise for me was really, really intense, and I had to be in a comfortable state. So I just advise you all to be in the most comfortable state that you can be in when taking a high dose of shrooms, if this is to be your first experience, okay? Now, I already think if I were to take shrooms again, I could be in any environment. I feel comfortable, I understand, as long as I'm with somebody else who's done shrooms, and they understand that the rise is for me, strange, right? Maybe if I was out in a park, I'd have to lay down and just lose sense of everything else and just focus on not throwing up or not going to the bathroom in my pants or whatever it is. I think I could do it in any environment, but I'm not sure I would, right? The shrooms seem to lock me into a sense of self, and I may just want to continue experiencing that in a dark place. I don't know. Dark, silent, in the mind, where the physical body then is not really interpreted as much, is not experienced as much. Because again, that state was very delusional for me. It was hard to even look at walls, because with the room stretching, the room breathing, when I'd feel warmth, the colors would turn to red warmth. All of that type of thing, very beautiful. It's literally seeing and expressing different aspects of your imagination in physical space, but it was very delusional, or that's a better word, delusional. That's a better word. Disorienting. It was very disorienting. So I had to be in that dark place to just cope with the disorientation that I was feeling. So, I advise. That's all I have.